Hey guys, so today we're looking at Harry Kane's shooting once again, and kind of hone in on a lot of factors of shooting in general, as well as using the ones that matter to making it look like Harry Kane's finish. So let's go over this clip first. Okay, so in one of my previous videos, I just outlined some of the mechanics I noticed. So here, let's go over a few things. So here, um, see, Harry Kane plants. You see his foot is over there. So a lot of times he'll just kind of hit the side of the ball and go either here, or even if he goes like near post, doesn't go quite across the body. He still has his foot pointed there and still kind of like does a little bit of like a curl as he follows through. Um, later I might go over a bit, but sometimes I find, like, say, if your toes, say, pointed more to the middle, you kind of want to open your hip a bit late. I'll explain this in a bit more detail, but and you want to go to here, so like you almost like have your shooting foot like straight on your last step, and then as you like swing, then you open your hip really late to like really get it over to the right. So actually in my previous video, I was talking about using my weak foot to shoot, and there's a lot of factors that I was trying to hone in on, and with my strong foot, a lot of the mechanics, like I don't really think about it because it's quite natural, but I've been trying to like pay attention so I could copy my left foot, and the main thing from that video was as you plant uh, your right foot or your shooting foot is it's kind of like turn it out a bit so your hip is already open. Especially when your like plant foot is like pointed like over to the side like this. This is especially important because you want to keep that hip open and then like kind of drive the ball this way. You And even though I do this naturally most of the time, no, sometimes I don't. But if I miss hit it, it's just something to consider. Just keeping that hip open most of the time. Like I said, like if I'm going like say my left foot is pointed more towards the middle or to the left, then I might have this a bit more straight. And then as I wind, then open my hip late as I fall through. Actually, I noticed Iniesta passes that way. Also did a video a while back, but I remember hearing or reading about an interview of Iniesta saying he's not a natural finisher. So I'm not sure if that's the reason why, because maybe he opens it late for a side foot. Um, but just like Kane does, he always like plants his foot over like this way and then hits the side of the ball with keeping that hip open. So you see that hip doesn't turn in like this; it just it's open like this. And then you see as he hits, he just leans over the ball like that and goes, and then cross-legged. Now another clip of finishing I mentioned before was kind of like you see when you like are about to wind up, is you kind of push with your plant foot. Most of it, the force comes from, say, the left foot here, and then this is just a light push. You don't want to push too hard. I attribute that to also being that like it takes too much time since you're jumping up in the air and then you have to come up and swing down. Whereas since if you're using most of the force from your opposite or your plant foot, this can be a lot quicker in this. And I think it also helps with the hip turn because if you push too much with your right, I find it's hard to keep control of that hip and keep it open. But you see a lot of times, when Harry Kane finishes, you see that he really crosses over like this. I naturally found when I pushed most of the weight from my left here, like it was very easy to cross. And like sometimes if I hit like a slow moving ball or a dead ball, like a lot of times like a finish like kind of like what Kane does here, like just like cross-legged like that. So kind of realized, that's another confirmation that you can keep this foot light and most of the force coming from this. Also, the final thing here is, you always hear about locking your ankle. So I've heard about generally like just like two ways to lock your ankle. Say this is your leg, and either lock your ankle like all the way down with your toes pointed down, and then your toes curl to keep it rock hard, Or, you know, you have your leg here, and then it's like 90 degrees, and it's also hard to keep it rigid. But again, you know, just honing on like what I naturally did without thinking about, you know, just finishing or crossing. You know, sometimes depending on the angle, like it's hard to see. I was trying to see if Harry Kane had his like foot like this or was like this, and you know, kind of notice it's kind of like in between. It's like I find like with Kane's finishing technique, if you go more across like this, generally it's closer to having the toes pointed down. But for the most part, it's not. You don't have the toes pointed down unless you're using the laces. So here he's using mostly the instep. So I'd say his leg or his foot rather is kind of more like this, and he kind of like play it by ear and depending on the angle. So also maybe just in my experience, just keeping your toes curled just to make it hard. In my opinion, like this is like the hardest, so you get the strongest shot. But you know, depending on this, you can also uh, have a decent amount of power because it's still rigid enough. And also one thing to note is like when your foot is angled like this, so it's not exactly down, but kind of uh, like a little bit more flopped up, but also rigid. Like you tend to like put a lot more like kind of like side spin, top spin. So you see like Harry Kane's like ball like kind of like dips down into the bottom corner. So you know it kind of gives like just extra margin of error. So you know ideally like for a good finish. You want it like bottom corner, but you know even if it goes up a little bit, that like top spin will pull it down and can like maybe bounce into the bottom corner. And lastly, you know, another factor I mentioned before was see like especially when you finish this way. Um, I don't know if I can tell if Kane does it, but at least when I did it, you'll see in a bit. It's like as you strike the ball, to like so you kind of like bend your like supporting leg just a little bit. So um, you know it's kind of hard to say, but like in my opinion, as you finish this way, it's easier to keep your foot in that like straight trajectory. Like I think if you keep it straight, it's like very easy to just kind of like slice the ball down, and then you know you don't get that good contact, and you don't get the like top spin. You kind of maybe get some backspin and lose a bit of power. So here's my attempt. So as I go here, one thing that was different with Kane, you see my foot's more planted over there, but the rest of the mechanics are fairly similar. And you know, as I mentioned, all the other mechanics, like yeah, you know, light-footed there, as I strike the ball, it's not, you know, my foot isn't straight down, it's kind of a bit over there. I find like the more you hit over to your like near post or like to the right in my set, the more like closer, like more of like a 90 degrees of your foot will be. So it's a range between like the 90 degrees and your toes down, and then while of course keeping your foot locked. And then you see what's more here. It's like, you know, I get a decent amount of power like to the bottom corner, but you see it's kind of hard to tell, but like that ball is kind of dipping like this, goes with the top spin, so it kind of pulls down and just goes to the bottom corner, which is, you know, ideally what I want. Now I think in the future I should put my foot down there because like sometimes I want to go to the bottom corner, and you know it's the same mechanics, but I'm just kind of like, you know, putting my foot more towards 90 degrees depending on the angle, maybe slightly down if that's a bit more comfortable, and still just kind of like turning in and hitting it slightly to the side. Maybe I'll do a clip here, but like I found like I had a lot more power and accuracy and consistency, as well as some like dip to get into this near post as well. And one thing to finally note here is, see, like as I'm going, it's kind of like more of like a full stride. You know, like this stride is like fairly in step with what I do for a normal run before I take the shot. Here's a different clip of Kane from the same training practice, but you see, this is you know, the similar thing. So, you know, Kane comes in, you know, just a longer stride as he would as he were running. But you see in this clip we were looking before, see the step, it's slightly shorter. He's not like going in full stride. So it's a bit more of a stutter like this, and you just do see his toes pointed just for a bit more control. So I find like, if you don't go forward as much, you don't have to hop as much because you're almost like falling onto the ball like this. So it's just something to note. I don't think it's too complicated. I think naturally you would do it anyway if you know all the mechanics. Whereas I think, when you take a full stride like this, generally you have to, hop a bit higher just to get enough, power, or enough time to bring that leg back. To see what I mean with like Iniesta's like late hip turn technique, let's watch this clip. So see as the ball comes here, see that like foot, it's initially planted like pretty much straight ahead, and then really as he like is about to wind, that's when he turns the hip late, and then just to like tell about the rest of the move, here, his like right shoulder drops just to have a really good follow through, and I find you can get good power that way. And what's even more is like say when you like this is really good for rondos, but like or passing in general. It's like when the ball comes, like since you're doing a late hip turn, it's like really easy to like pass over there without trying to like turn your body and give away where you're gonna go. And here's another clip to illustrate using the late hip turn. So as the ball comes, you see, well, his foot is pointed that way, but you see where his hips are. So it's pretty much in line where his hips are pointed. It's not open like this. It's kind of subtle to tell, but in my experience doing it, that's what it feels like. And then as he, see as he lifts his foot, that's when the hip starts to turn out that way. And then it's quite easy to like get a controlled pass over to in this direction.